The film, by the way, has done just a little word of update about it. It's done about $33 million of revenues. It's been seen. It's been seen by about 3 million people. It's winding its phase down in the theater. In about 10 days, the film will come out in DVD, and home box office, and downloads. I was recently in a hotel just flipping, and I noticed that the film is now popping up with all the films that are now still in theaters, and you can now watch it in a hotel room. And I think the appeal of the film is because people are really hungry for information about Obama. It was kind of weird that 4 years ago so little was known about this guy, but now at the end of the first term, it is particularly odd that he is so unvetted and so unexamined. When I was in Indonesia and Kenya interviewing people who, by the way, knew his mom, knew his dad, knew Obama, were in some cases related to Obama, I say to them, well, when was the last time you were interviewed? And they'd be like, never. You're the first guy who's come down here. So it's very odd that we're living at a time when the mainstream press is not giving us information about Obama. Why? Because they think, many of them think, it is morally urgent for America that Obama be reelected. And they think this because they believe that America's racial reputation, America's racial goodness, is in a way at stake. And I think the reason that so many in the press are so uncritical about Obama is because what Obama really offers them is a sort of certificate of racial absolution. Sort of like you get to think of yourself as a morally wonderful person for supporting Obama. And this, I think, is the only thing that explains the very peculiar behavior. You know, at dinner a moment ago, we were talking about the peculiar behavior of Mr. Chris Matthews. By the way, Chris Matthews is a bit of a hard-bitten guy. He's a guy who was Tip O'Neill's chief of staff. He came up and talking to the longshoremen of Boston. But if you listen to him on Obama, it's very embarrassing. I mean, here's a guy, a family man, and he talks about things like when Obama speaks, he feels a thrill running down his leg. It's downright odd. Now, why does he do that? Because I think what Chris Matthews is really saying, it's not even about Obama. Chris Matthews is just saying that when I listen to Obama and I support Obama, I'm sort of patting myself on the back and saying to myself, hey, Chris, you are a morally spectacular person because you support this president. Where does this leave us? I think where this leaves us is that we have a fight. But it's not just a fight about Obama. It's ultimately a fight for a much bigger idea. In the film, I present it in a package, the American dream. And I present it as, do you want the American dream or do you want Obama's dream? But another way to put it is, what kind of America do you want at all? Do you want the America that was framed by Christian and religious principles, an America that provides not just opportunity, not just a force for freedom in the world, but America ultimately that seeks not just the prosperous society, but the good society, the decent society, a society that is, in a way, that has guardrails built into it that preserve liberty. Remember, ultimately, we often use the phrase liberty, but liberty ultimately is not its own defense. Ultimately, the best argument for liberty is what kind of person is produced by a society in which you have liberty. So even having liberty is not enough. If you're a Christian, we believe that human nature is a little warped. Immanuel Kant, out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing was ever made. No case for liberty is adequate that doesn't acknowledge that liberty will often be used badly. The real case for liberty is to have a society in which you not only have freedom, but you have institutions, social institutions, in which citizens and young people are taught how to use freedom well. And this brings me to the advocates of faith and freedom, because ultimately this is not about an election alone. It's also ultimately about what can we as conservatives, as Christians do to strengthen our culture and defend it against ideas and influences that would undermine our American dream, undermine the Christian influences that remain in our society. Remember how different America is from Europe. In Europe, you have religious monuments everywhere, but Christianity has, in a way, been largely jettisoned. Here in America, Christianity is still a force. And for me, it's groups like this one that are fighting an often uphill battle. They're outnumbered, they're outfinanced, they're sometimes outgunned, but they have only one thing on their side, and that is they're right. And so they soldier on, and we should support them. Now, you sense that in a season where there's a lot of people asking for money and this and that, you get tired. There's a saying in northern India, after crossing the mountain, more mountains. And if you are involved in any kind of activist cause, you know the feeling. It's exhausting. You feel like you never get there. You feel like you take one step forward or two steps forward and one step back. But at the end of the day, if you think about Christianity, we talk about Reagan believed and Jefferson believed and Lincoln believed and that America is a providential nation. God has a plan for America, and so he does, and so he might. But how does actually God carry out that plan? Where's God to do it? God carries out that plan ultimately through God's people. God carries out that plan through godly men and women in the country who sign up for that agenda and are willing to donate to it, work for it, and also fight for it. And ultimately, I think it's those people who will do the best to save this country, and in saving this country, to save the world, because America has been on the balance, for all its mistakes, a force for great good in the world. So if you want to defend America, you have to defend the principles that have built America, and this organization, Advocates for Faith and Freedom, is an important part of that struggle. So I'm particularly thrilled to be here to speak on their behalf. I want to urge you to support them, and thank you for your time, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you very much.